Last time, I don't know if it was last time, but I showed slides from Uzbekistan,
Yes.
and I went to 5 stands, so eventually we'll look at all 5 stands. So this is Kyrgyzstan, and there'll be a quiz on how to spell it when we're finished.
Backwards?
Backwards, yes, and in high heels now. And Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan are very different. It's a very beautiful country, very mountainous, lots of rivers, and the capital is Bishkek, which we have an investment in. We have a big Air Force base, the United States, in Bishkek. So if you look around long enough, you see Americans there. So it's a rugged Central Asian country along the Silk Road, which there's very little residue of the Silk Road anymore. And it was the ancient trade road, of course, between China and the Mediterranean. The mountains that you see, the Tian Shan Mountains, surround the old caravan route and dominate the country. So we'll see pictures of them in the background and up close. And there are snow leopards, lynx, and sheep, lots of sheep. I didn't see any leopards. And in the south, the millennial city of Osh has a huge, busy bazaar, but unfortunately I didn't get to Osh, but went to other bazaars that were quite interesting. There's a wonderful soup called Osh that you can get in the Afghan restaurants. Downtown Bishkek has lots of interesting things. So Kyrgyzstan has about 5 million people and about 14 million sheep, a lot like New Zealand. The capital is Bishkek.
Russian?
The languages are Kyrgyz and Russian. The older people speak Russian because it was part of the Soviet Union. It's a stable country, pretty liberal. I call it Muslim light. But serious problems in the south, in Osh, with Islamic militants in Fergana Valley. And we also talked about that roughly relation to Uzbekistan, which has also some Islamic activity there. It's the only Central Asian country that's a member of the World Trade Organization. 94% of it is mountains. And the Bishkek, well, I visited Bishkek, Lake Issyk, Karakol, and a few other places. It was very interesting. If you remember from Uzbekistan, I set up this trip on email. I Googled around and found, I was looking for Central Asia travel agencies, and I found this one travel agency out of Tashkent in Uzbekistan, and they set up this whole trip, which you may recall I call my faith-based trip, because I would take it on faith that somebody would meet me at the border or when I got off the airplane or something, because it was 6 different countries, 16 different cities, and I didn't always have the same tour guides in each one. But I did in Kyrgyzstan, so I had the same 2 guides, well, 1 guide and 1 driver, and they were terrific. You'll meet them in a minute. So of course it became independent from the USSR in 1991, as all these countries did. The Islamic religion is non-sectarian there, so it's not Shia or Sunni. And also there's Russian Orthodox, and they all seem to get along okay. It's landlocked, there's no sea connections at all. And it has a unitary parliamentary republic, although there are ethnic conflicts. I'm not sure what the ethnic conflicts are. They're not all Kyrgyz people. And they've had economic troubles. It doesn't seem like a very poor country to me. So here's Bishkek. And it's a gateway city to the mountains. The art scene is very interesting. There's a very nice Museum of Fine Arts, which we'll see quite a bit of. The opera, the ballet, and the square, and a lovely park downtown. So this is Kyrgyzstan. Of course, it's not anything compared to the size of it compared to Kazakhstan on the left, or China below. And I was mostly in the northern part. This is up close, you can see where China and Tajikistan and Uzbekistan are. Kazakhstan is very big. And then you can see Lake Izikal, which we'll talk about later up here. Maybe. Doesn't matter. I think I said that already. So, in case you don't know how to spell it, there it is. Committed to memory. It does have one vowel, but that doesn't count.
8 consonants before you get to one vowel.
8 consonants to one vowel, yeah. This is the front of the calendar. I don't guarantee such learned discussion here. And these are pictures from the calendar, not pictures that I took because I didn't quite see people dancing like this. I did go to markets though. This is downtown Bishkek. This is the park where they have a lot of interesting ancient or modern sculptures, I'm not sure which. Very well developed there. This is the Hyatt. Looks like our Hyatt next around the corner. Why there's a Hyatt there, I'm not sure, but I'm assuming it has something to do with our military base. That there must be a lot of traffic between the United States and Bishkek. All the fountains were very welcome because it was very hot there. So people just stood right there in the fountains. This is my guide, Ulan. You'll meet him later too. And you can see the Tian Shan Mountains in the background.
Wow, big mountains.
This is, so we went to the museum, and it's not only an arts museum, but a history museum. These are some of the arts. This bag is very typical, the design is very typical of Kyrgyzstan art. It's sort of like a fleur-de-lis theme. And you see it on the hats, and you see it in the decorations in the yurts. You see it on the scarf. You don't see it in this particular assortment of things. More like the one on the upper right. Most of these are hangings for yurts. That's why they're shaped that way. So in the museum is a lot of Russian history or World War II history in which the Central Asian countries participated.
Ooh, that's nice.
This is a musical group. Unfortunately, we didn't hear very much music. I don't think they perform in the nude, but this is some people here. Lenin is very big there in Kyrgyzstan. I don't know what that means exactly, but you see a lot of statues and pictures of him. There's a lot of anti-imperialist art in this museum. This is more cheerful, a typical Kyrgyz celebration. The hat on the right is a very typical hat. You'll see more later. The carpet that she's sitting on is a typical Kyrgyz designs. I'm sorry to take so long in the textiles, but I do love the textiles. Half the reason I go. And the ones in Central Asia were quite beautiful. But this design is Kyrgyzstan. This could be Mexico though. This is one of the paintings in the museum that's criticizing the United States for bombing Hiroshima. Is that my pocketbook? Maybe, no. That I would say would be a typical Kyrgyz design. There they are in the fountain again. This is the art museum, I think. There is, I don't know how many American universities there are. I have to look it up sometime, but they appear in the most unusual places. So here is one right there in Bishkek. I've seen a lot of this around Russia and Central Asia and Odessa. People getting married and walking around in the park. This is a very hot day. Of course, she's wearing a strapless gown. But it seems like a lot of work, the way they do this. There was one in Odessa where the bride was walking on a wall and she had her whole gown on and everything. But it seems to be a custom. There's more sculpture in the park. Here they are. Here's part of the wedding party. So you can see they're not too far behind the times, the way they dress. High heels, short skirts. Car decorated. I think that's the museum again. Or the ballet theater, probably. There's the Hyatt again. And right in the middle of downtown is a yurt. You can see, again, the typical decorations on it. These are people in the yurt. This is a big, I think, memorial to the Second World War, in which all the stands fought and lost a lot of people, a lot of men. This is a store.
What side did they fight on?
On Russia's side. Saved our lunch. So you can get all these beautiful things here. And food is quite good. And some beverages to go with the food. A lot of vodka is drank here. And Coca-Cola, of course. And they also have gotten the Western idea of baking. So there's the Tian Shan Mountains, which are almost always in sight. This is another yurt out in the mountains. The interior, very beautiful, I think. Quite different from the one I stayed in Mongolia. That's the top, so that there's a wood stove in the middle, and that's how it gets ventilated. In really cold weather, they close it, but it's necessary to get the air in. This particular yurt was sort of a store with all these pretty things in it. I can't say that I did my homework very well. I left it to my guides and my driver to show me around, so I don't know everything that I saw. This tower is a very famous tower in Kyrgyzstan, and there's carvings all around it, some of which I think were replicated in the park, and you can see the mountains again in the background. Here's the carvings as they have been, I think, for thousands of years.
Unbelievable.
The tower has some religious significance, but I'm not sure what it is. It does not functional. Tokmark is a city. It was a military post, and the Russians had it for a while, but it's now the capital of the Chui Valley section. This is a biosphere reserve. I had to look up what biospheres were, and apparently they're segments in the countries where culture and nature meet and are preserved. So this one is near the Issyk Lake. And there's Lake Issyk. It is huge. It is a freshwater lake, I think. I don't understand what this is. Hunting with tame snow leopards. Maybe this happened in the 8th century. I'm not sure, but I thought it was interesting. I didn't see any snow leopards, but these are some of the carvings around there. Apparently very old. I'm not sure what that is. This is a very nice little cafe that seems to cater to Western tourists with beer and tea and something good. I ate wherever my guide and driver ate, and they usually had a very good sense of where to eat. This is a mosque. I was fascinated by all the cemeteries. I thought they were beautiful, so we stopped at many of them, and this is in a cemetery. June, July, so it was very hot, but also the flowers were blooming and they were beautiful. Mountains in the background, as you can see. They're Muslim cemeteries, but different than I'd seen before. When we got to our destination in the mountains, and I really can't say what city we were in, little village, I guess, we stayed at a bed and breakfast, sort of bed and breakfast place. And it was very charming. They're very hospitable there. Beautiful garden, rose season. I got fascinated with the windows. I had first seen windows that I thought were very interesting in Siberia, I guess. So here they were again. She's not a window. I took a walk outside of our bed and breakfast, a few blocks around, and there were cows wandering around and kids wandering around and lots of flowers. Birch trees you can see in the background. This is a place not near where we were. This is my driver. He was a lot of fun. His English was not too good. That's how he became the driver and not the guide. On one Sunday morning, we went to the animal market. If you're an animal lover, this may be very painful to watch, but they seem to be very valued, of course, for eating and other things, pulling carts. Very crowded. People came with their animals. People came to buy animals, sell animals. It was fun because it seemed so authentic, and the animals were pretty well behaved. Kids enjoyed it. There's a hat, very typical Kyrgyzstan hat. This is a hotel we encountered along the way. It didn't stay there. Pretty hotel. I think a hotel. And this is a mosque.
Church.
Or a church. I think you're right. It's a church.
Got the cross.
Russian Orthodox. They were all strewn in together. So you're right. It's an Orthodox church. But did I have to cover my head? Probably. It's a little garden outside. Looks good, huh? This is a Chinese mosque, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I'm not sure where that was, but very helpful. There's quite a combination of architecture around here. I'm not sure what that is a memorial to. This is some of the scenery you see along the way, which makes it such a beautiful country. So we drove down into this valley where these yurts were. and rivers, a river, cows, and mountains. That's the top of the yurt closed. Very wonderful detail there. These yurts, of course, are very portable, and it's very interesting to see them taken down. I think the only time I saw them taken down was in the movie, the successor to the legend, the story of the Weeping Camel, the one that came after that. This family dismembered their yurt in about 2 hours, stacked it all up on their, not truck, but their horse-driven or their ox-driven carriage, and moved to another location. Beautiful, really. So along the way, it looked like it was about to rain, and we came across this couple and agreed to give them a ride. So we drove them, they were from Germany, and we drove them to where the yurts were, because there was food there. They were a very nice couple. This is what we saw from our yurt. And again, you can see this sort of fleur-de-lis pattern on the yurt. I guess these are wild horses. That's the convenience. There's no shortage of water, of course, in Kyrgyzstan. The Soviets built a lot of beautiful waiting bus stations or something, where people wait for buses anyway. And they looked a lot like, some of them looked like Kyrgyzstan hats, and were very nicely decorated. They weren't kept up because it was 1991 when the Soviets left, so. This is again part of a cemetery, I think. This is another bed and breakfast we stayed in. Lenin standing there all by himself somewhere. You can see how impressive these mountains are. It's interesting when the Chinese dancers come here, and they're called Tianxian dancers. They must come from this part of the world, although I had also had the understanding that their Chinese don't welcome them in China, so I'm not sure where they come from. I thought they came from China. This is a very long mountain range in any case. This little girl in the back is very beautiful. It's just a street near the bed and breakfast. Some of the decorations. That is shaped like a mosque dome or something. These guys were just walking along. So you can see that they're not quite Chinese looking, not quite, they look distinctive. And they come in different colors, different skin colors, as you can see from my driver and my guide. This little boy is the one that's walking around this ox or cow. He was enjoying having his picture taken. As my guide, and he was trying on some of the hats. This is a photo of the Tian Shan Mountains. Coming back to Bishkek, or along the way, I guess, saw some very interesting things that are, well, were mysterious. I'm not sure what they were. Somewhere around here, Mike Ulan said that this was going to be the site of an international film festival. And they were making all these hotels and facilities. Whether it's already happened or not, I don't know. It'd be very interesting to go to it, I think. Again, that very distinctive Kyrgyzstan design. I love these cemeteries. There is currency with a woman's picture on it. It had women rulers, women in high political offices. There's a replica of a hat, which is a busta. There's a better picture of it. Many of the restaurants we ate with, well, the guide and the driver, obviously, they picked Uyghur restaurants. I've talked about Uyghurs before. Uyghurs are Turkic people that live in Central Asia and in China. And I showed pictures from where they lived before. In any case, they're very good cooks, and their restaurants are excellent. And my guide and driver favored their restaurants, and they were in Kyrgyzstan, and they were in other places in Central Asia, but I don't think I'd eaten in one until they picked these restaurants, which are also very pretty. Decorations on the wall. I think this must be the city where the restaurant was. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip those. There's pictures of restaurants, which we'll see in a minute. But this is some paintings I saw somewhere of the yurts. All those people in one donkey seems unlikely.
6.
This looks like a wedding. Again, the hat. This is the entrance to the Uyghur restaurant. There it is. So it's huge and very nicely decorated. And apparently they do a lot of business at night. This was lunchtime we were there. There's Ulan, and you can see how beautiful that is. This is very much like the scene where the yurts were. Now we're back to Bishkek. When I came back to Bishkek, there was this big military ceremony going on. I think it was, I don't know what it was. But, and here's some women soldiers. And there's downtown Bishkek. This is a university on the outskirts of Bishkek. This is really a beautiful hanging. Music was one thing I did not hear this time. Just to show you that it's quite a modern country. These are a salesperson's nails that I encountered. So they're not that primitive. And this is the a little cafe in the airport. Well, let's see, we have a half an hour. Would you like to see a mystery place? See if you can identify the mystery place.